What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to Fireside Rangers. I'm your host, Eric Wilson. Today, joined by my co-host, Will Cohen. Yesterday, we made a series recap of the second round against the Carolina Hurricanes, and we briefly talked about who our opponent might potentially be, but less than 24 hours later, we know who that opponent is. It's the Florida Panthers. So the Eastern Conference Finals matchup is set. We're going to be doing a little bit of a deep dive here, previewing this series and giving our predictions on how it might go. But before we do that, make sure you guys like, subscribe, ring that bell so you don't miss a notification. If you're watching us on Apple or Spotify, be sure to give us a 5-star review. Leave your thoughts on this upcoming series down in the comment section below. We would love to hear your predictions. And lastly, be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms at Fireside Rangers on Instagram, X, and TikTok. But before we really get into it, Will, how you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Actually, we had a very good, what was it, like an hour-long conversation before the stream. That was great. I mean, that was great. So, I'm doing very good today. I had a pretty long night after we won game 6. What was it? Was it Thursday?
It was on a Thursday.
Yes, I had a long night. I don't know if I said this yesterday, but I had a few drinks for myself because I was so excited. I know I said that I went through my ceiling, but yesterday had a not as long of a night. I went to bed 5 hours earlier than I did on Thursday. So I'm a lot more energized to talk in this episode, not like yesterday, but I'm doing very good. And you know what? We don't ask you this. How are you doing, Eric?
I'm doing good. Thursday night, it was a roller coaster of emotions. At certain points, I thought it was over. At certain points, I thought that we were back, and it ended up that we are officially back. I can't say the same about you and my experience on Thursday. Got a good old cup of water here. But at the end of the day, I'm just happy to be in the Eastern Conference Finals. I'm up good, having a phenomenal day, and I'm really just going to be bored until Wednesday. I really just want this conference finals to start. They let us start early in the second round. Why can't we start early in the third round?
I was thinking that too. Like, I mean, I get it. Like, it could go to a game 7, but like, it didn't. It went to 6. So, but I don't know. I do agree with you. My birthday's on in 2 days. So I was excited. I was like, you know what? It's my 21st. I'm gonna go to a bar and watch the game with my family. And then they were like, you know what? Nope. 2 days after. I'm a little mad.
We'll see. At this point, there's 5 teams left. Either Vancouver or Edmonton is going to be eliminated next. It's looking like it's going to be Edmonton, and I'd prefer that because I would like to play Vancouver in a potential final series, the ultimate repeat of 1994. But we'll see. For now, the Rangers do have one major task at hand, and it is advancing to the finals by defeating the Florida Panthers. So let's dive into this series. I mean, we know the Rangers. We know who's good. We know who's bad. Truba. But let's take a look at the Florida Panthers right now. I think to start off, you look at their threats. The immediate names that come to mind are Barkov and Tkachuk. And Verhaeghe too, yeah. I think that those would be the biggest 3 in my opinion. And all 3 are very talented players. I think the Rangers' stars, on the other hand, are still better than theirs. Barkov is a very talented forward. We've said it a couple times. He's in contention to win the Selke Award.
He's going to win the Selke this year, I think.
Every single year he's a finalist, I feel like.
Yeah.
I don't remember the last time he wasn't a finalist. But, at the end of the day, when it comes to scoring abilities, I will take Mika Zibanejad, Chris Kreider, the GOAT, Artemi Panarin, and Vincent Trocheck, and Alexi Lafreniere at this point over Tkachuk, Verhaeghe, and Barkov. So looking at offense, I do think that the Rangers do have an upper hand. So that's just my opinion. But Will, I know you're more knowledgeable on other teams around the league. So how are you feeling about the offensive comparison?
Oh, well, Soto just hit his second nuke of the game. Sorry, I have the Yankees game on, but I think it's the Panthers forwards are more defensively capable of, are more defensively sound than the Rangers forwards. So they have the slight upper hand in defensively, but I think offensively the Rangers have a slight upper hand. I think they're pretty evenly matched. Um, but I think the Rangers just have a slight upper hand. Like Barkov's a player where he can take over a game if he wants to. Like that's like if he just focused on his offensive ability, he'd really be able to take over a game. He probably would be a 100-point scorer if he did. Or again, I think it was 100-point scorer sometime in his career. I don't remember.
Mhm.
But he's a defensive wizard, and that's he likes to focus a lot of his game on that. But they got guys like Kachuk, who's he's a defensive mastermind. Verhaeghe is a defensive mastermind. Reinhardt's very good defensively, and they're all very good offensively as well. But I think if we're looking at from pure offensive standpoint, I think the Rangers have the slight upper hand in that department. But defensively, it's definitely the Panthers in that department, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, do you mean defensively from the forwards or from the defensive core?
I think both. In this sense, the forwards. I think defensively for the Panthers, their forward core is a lot more defensively sound than ours.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I've barely watched the Panthers games. I did see them play live in person when I went to.
They're a very fun team.
I went to Game 3 of Tampa versus Florida in the first round. So I did scout them, but to be honest with you, I was really just enjoying my time more than I was watching the game. Just hanging out with my friends. As every time we scored, I just said we. Every time the Lightning scored, I would just be like, and every time the Panthers scored, I'd be like, I left the stadium with a "Let's Go Rangers" chant. Got a lot of really weird looks for that.
In your New Orleans Saints shirt.
I was wearing a New Orleans shirt.
It was draft day. I do remember that. It was draft day.
It was draft day. But really the only reason I wore it is because I wanted to wear a Rangers jersey, but I'm like, I don't really feel like getting heckled right now. And you couldn't catch me wearing a Lightning jersey during the playoffs. I do own a Lightning jersey, I will admit. I also own a Blackhawks jersey and a Hurricanes jersey. But
I own a Whalers jersey, so it doesn't count.
I won't wear them when the Rangers are potentially going to play any of these teams. But every once in a while, if I'm feeling it, I'll throw one on. Just to clarify, though, my Blackhawks one, it's the St. Patrick's Day Patrick Kane jersey, and I have a Sebastian Aho jersey. I got it for like $30.
Okay, so. That's fair. That's fair.
I saw the deal, and I feel like I had to take it. In 2022, I said if we lose to them, I'll burn it. This year, I said if we lose to them, I'll burn it. That Aho jersey lives to see another day. Oh, and my Lightning one is a Stamkos jersey.
That's respectable because
I like Steven Stamkos. But moving on to the defense, though, like I'm looking at their lines right now. Gustav Forsling, Aaron Ekblad, Nico Mikkola.
He's been solid for them.
Brandon Montour, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, and Dmitry Kulikov. I know the Rangers' defense didn't play that good in the second round, but I feel like on paper, Lindgren, Fox, Miller, Trouba, Gustafsson, Schneider, that's better. Yeah, I feel like it has to be a better core all around. The only reason it wouldn't be is if they just continue to play like they did against Carolina.
Yeah, I think if they play how they did the first 3 games against Carolina, I think the defensive core for the Rangers will outplay the defensive core of the Panthers. But I do think that their defensive core is very underrated. They have a lot of underrated pieces. Like I think Aaron Ekblad
is phenomenal.
Yeah, he does not get enough credit, and I hope I'm gonna tell my friend. She's a huge Ekblad fan, huge Panthers fan. So I'm gonna tell her that I gave him props. Ekblad gets a lot more hate than he should get. I mean, that guy is he's not the first overall pick that they drafted, but dude, he's good. He is good.
Yeah, well, that's why he gets hate is because he was drafted first overall. Yep. So I don't know, but Ekblad's phenomenal. We know Oliver Ekman-Larsson. He's on the third pairing. He's a little old, but he's had a good career.
I mean, he's had a good bounce back year this year. I mean, the past 3 years, I think the last 2 years he spent with Vancouver, and then this year I think he either got traded or signed to Florida, and he's just had a revival for himself, which is pretty cool to see. But they have a lot of while their defensive core might not be as strong as us, I think they are very defensively. They are a very defensively sound team.
Yeah. I mean, defense is going to be a big thing in this series. I think, the Rangers excel at offense, the Panthers excel at defense, but at the end of the day, it might just come down to goaltending. Igor Shesterkin versus fellow Russian Sergei Bobrovsky. And, Bobrovsky is a great goaltender. He's had a great year. Yeah. But I still do fully believe that Igor Shesterkin is the best goaltender in the entire world.
I agree. And I think I've seen a lot. I saw someone say that Bobrovsky has been better than Shesterkin this postseason, which I think Bobrovsky's save percentage is kind of what am I trying to say? There's a certain term that I can't think of, but it's like he got let out to dry a couple times. It's a .902, and he got left out to dry a couple times in the series against the Lightning. But he's been a very good goaltender. But I think if you test him, then you will be able to find that you can expose. There's weaknesses in his games that are easy to expose, but I do think that the Rangers do. I do agree with you that the Rangers easily have an upper hand in the goaltending department with Igor Shesterkin and how he's been playing.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the only other goaltender in the entire NHL that has rivaled Shesterkin this postseason was Swayman.
God, he was so good.
But luckily, we don't have to face Swayman because the Panthers eliminated him.
Yeah.
So honestly, I don't want to sound like cocky or anything, but I think when you look at offensive core, defensive core, and goaltending, I think the Rangers do prevail in all three. On paper, at least. We don't know how they're going to perform against them, but on paper, I would say that the Rangers have the upper hand in all three categories right there.
Yeah, I would say they have a slight upper hand. I mean, I love Kachuk, I love Barkov, I love Verhaeghe too, and Reinhardt's up there too. I mean, that guy's electric, let me tell you. But I think the Rangers do have a slight upper hand in that department, but on paper, I'm not going to say anything else about that. Just on paper, they do. So if the Stars perform like they should. If they perform like they did it in the third period of game 3, not the first two, not game 3 of game 6, not the first 2 periods, I think that you'll obviously see they have the slight upper hand in that category. I don't know why I just repeated myself twice.
It's all good. Before we wrap up, we got to move into our official professional predictions on how this series is going to go. Never forget, I did correctly predict the second round. I said it would be Rangers in 6, and it happened to be Rangers in 6. So take everything I say very seriously here when you place your bets. Like I just went into before, I think we outperformed them in every aspect of the game. Also, keep in mind, this is another series that Vincent Trocheck is going against a former team. I know Florida's very different from when he played there, but he was a Panther at some point. So I think he's going to
started his career as a Panther.
I kind of want to say Rangers in 6 again because that sounds the most realistic, but I don't want to just repeat myself. So I might go bold here. Mm-hmm. Very bold. And I might just say Rangers in 5 because hear me out. The Rangers are phenomenal at home. And all throughout that second round against Carolina, we kept calling PNC MSG South. Yep. Now, while that may be true, there's going to be even more Rangers fans in Florida. I know for a fact that I am going to at least games 3 and 4, and God forbid there's a game 6. I will be there too. And I know Tony's going to come with me. Colin wants to fly down. There's going to be so many Ranger fans at this stadium that it might just be all home games for the Rangers. I know that Florida is a very, very good team, and I'm not doubting any of their skill when I make this prediction. I know what they're capable of. I've seen what they've done. I was there in person. I watched the game last night. But at the end of the day, I think the Rangers are overall a better team. Factoring in home ice, for every game, basically. I'm gonna lock in Rangers in 5.
I'm on and off about my prediction. Like I could see the Rangers winning in 6, but I think knowing how the Panthers are and how evenly matched this series is, in my opinion, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna say Rangers in 7. It's I don't think the Rangers are necessarily going to have a bad series. Like, it's not going to be like how they played in Game 5 against Carolina. The games are all going to be very close. But I just think that they're so evenly matched, and the Panthers their core is just so good. Their team is just so good, and their depth is great too. That this is going to be a long series. It's going to be a bloodbath, and I think it goes to 7.
We'll see. One of us is going to be right. I think it might be a shorter one. You think it'll be a longer one. I feel like I'm on top of the world right now. Like, people will call me crazy, but going into the Carolina series, we all thought it was going to be like a really long, hard fought series going to 7 minimum, besides me, because I said 6, but I was just feeling extra confident. And then look what happened. We went up 3-0 in the series. Sure, we lost a close one in Game 4, and then we just played terribly in Game 5. But then we just won it in 6. And I think Carolina might have been the hardest opponent that we could have possibly faced in these playoffs. Not saying that Florida is going to be easy, but I don't think they pose as much of a threat as Carolina did on paper. Again, I will say, because we have to see how this actually plays out. But it's definitely going to be a physical series, very defensive series. But I think the Rangers have what it takes to come out on top.
No, I definitely agree with that. I think the Rangers are very capable of matching their speed and physicality, and that's one thing that the Panthers, in my opinion, are what the Canes want to be. It's like they play that same style, but the Panthers stars are much better, and they're much better defensively. They're much better defensively sound, and they also they actually have a goaltender in Bobrovsky. So to me, I actually do think that the Panthers do pose more of a threat than Carolina, but I can see the Rangers coming out on top because I know that they can match their speed and physicality and defense, and it's going to be a very evenly matched series. I know I said that already, but
it's going to be an entertaining one for sure. I know as soon as the matchup was confirmed, I saw all over social media people are saying that this has the potential to be one of the best series that we've seen in years. Not even just Rangers, they're like all around the NHL. This has the potential to be one for the history books, which I'm sure it will be. But that pretty much wraps up our preview and predictions for what might possibly happen throughout the Eastern Conference Finals this year. If you guys did enjoy, please make sure that you hit that like button. If you're new, hit subscribe and ring that bell to miss notification if you're watching us on Apple or Spotify. Be sure to give us a 5-star review. Once again, leave your thoughts and predictions down in the comment section below. I want to hear you all calling me crazy for saying Rangers in 5. I want to hear y'all more confident fans calling Will crazy for saying Rangers in 7. But lastly, be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms at Fireside Rangers. But that about wraps up today's episode. I hope you all have a phenomenal rest of your weekend, and we'll have more Rangers content leading up to the conference finals, which is going to start on Wednesday. So until then, have a good one, and
let's go Rangers.